spread the culture worldwide. That's the Caribbean.
Melbourne motivation gon' give you a sponsor. You know the vibes that they under. We dey do this from our answer. Come on, we empower black brothers to get stronger. We dey uplift our culture. We gon' do this together. Come now, and it's a Melbourne motivation around the Caribbean.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say welcome back to Melbourne Motivation Radio Show on Irie Jam Radio. Now, this is where we spotlight Caribbean excellence and connect our community to leaders who are creating opportunities and opening doors for the next generation. Now, today's guest is one of those leaders. Alexus Lexi Whilby is the founder and president of the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce of the Northeast and the visionary behind the Young Caribbean Professionals Conference, an annual gathering that brings together diplomats, entrepreneurs, students, executives, and change makers from across the Caribbean diaspora. On June 5th and 6th, the Chamber will host Caribbean Excellence Weekend, including a gala and the Young Caribbean Professional Conference in Wilmington, Delaware, featuring internationally renowned speaker Dr. George Fraser and an impressive lineup of Caribbean leaders from across the region. So with that, Lexi, welcome to Melbourne Motivation. How are you feeling today, my friend?
I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me, Miguel. This was great. And thanks for that wonderful introduction.
Absolutely. No, I'm super excited about this conversation. And, before we talk about the conference, I'd love for our listeners to get to know the woman behind the vision. So can you just tell us about your journey and what experiences growing up throughout your career in sales, business development, and community leadership inspired you to create the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce of the Northeast?
Yes, sure. So firstly, my parents are Jamaican. I was born in Delaware, but my mom is from Guys Hill and my dad was from St. Anne's Bay. So growing up in the summers, I would go up to Guys Hill. So it's like the real Jamaican experience with running water being limited, having to go out to the river sometimes, having to use the hot water, boil the water in the pot and keep it as hot and warm as possible so everybody gets a chance to get a bath. So those are like my growing up summers when most people were like, oh, I'm going to Disney World. It's like, oh, I'm going to Guys Hill. Like, what's a Guys Hill? Like, don't ask. Okay. So that's my background, at least with my Jamaican roots. But I love that because I think it humbled me and it let me see both sides. So when I came back to America, I was more appreciative, more than just expecting things to happen. I knew both. So that was kind of what built me to kind of be a little more humble and more grateful that my parents, took that journey to come here. Because, it's definitely harder now these days. The second thing was, as I went into college, first of all, I grew up in France. And then from France, I went to Atlanta. So I speak French fluently. So the reason I bring that up is because in college, I was the president of the French club of Oglethorpe University for 4 years. And I led that team. So we did trips to New Orleans because there was a deep French connection there. We've done to do like the museums of like when the French settled in Louisiana. We did French club night where we would do chef, like we would re-inspire cooking from French cuisine. So I was always into cultural events, and being the president of the French club, I loved it. I went to a PWI, so it was just like, it was just great. It was a perfect experience. But as I got older, and of course having those Jamaican roots and having my mom, kind of get more in the Jamaican culture, I realized that we didn't have one, at least in Delaware. She used to always talk about the Jamaica Inn back in the day, but we didn't have anything. So that's why I kind of birthed this idea of the Chamber of Commerce. There's always been around, of course, there are plenty of chambers, but in our area specifically, and doing what it needed to do where I felt the younger generation could benefit, that's where the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce came from.
Wow, what a dynamic background, right? And you certainly sound like you had the most interesting stories when you came back to America from Jamaica. I love that. And so now you've built what has become one of the premier professional development events for the Caribbean professionals in the Northeast. And we're just days away from the Caribbean Excellence Weekend, June 5th and 6th in Delaware. Looking at this year's lineup with diplomats, elected officials, entrepreneurs, educators, and keynote speaker Dr. George Fraser, what excites you most about this year's conference, and what can attendees expect to gain from this experience?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the first thing is, like you said, just having those people in the room, full stop. Like Dr. George Fraser, the CG of Trinidad and Tobago, CG of Guyana, CG of St. Lucia, CG of the Bahamas, Honorary Consul of Jamaica, Community Relations Officer of the Consulate of Jamaica in New York, plus Deputy Consul General of St. Kitts and Nevis. That's a lot. But we have representation, so they can expect that. So that alone is great, just to hear from those people, because I know in my college years, I wasn't hearing from them. Even as an adult, I know a lot of adults haven't heard from them. So them being there is a great thing. But the most important thing to remember about the Caribbean Excellence Weekend and Young Caribbean Professionals Conference is it's for the youth, it's for the next generation. It's for us to pass the baton of information that we may not have gotten or you don't get in college, right? If you could learn early what these careers are about, what professions we need to be in, where we can really grow our numbers. Because in some of these professions, we're not even in the double digits of representation. So all that starts with educating the youth of what's out there, what's available, and getting informed and networking in those spaces.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Let me ask you this, right? You touched on it. This conference is called the Young Caribbean Professional Conference, and many of our listeners are students, emerging professionals, and aspiring entrepreneurs. So I want to ask this question. What's your message to a young Caribbean person who may be talented and ambitious, but is still trying to find their confidence, their network, or their next opportunity? What would be your message to them?
My first message to them is figure out what it is you really want to do, right? Not what your parents are telling you to do, not what you think is going to make money. What is it you really are good at? Because some people get into a profession, but they're not good at it. And unfortunately, the market shows them that. So if you could do something that you're passionate about and you're actually good at, focus on that and network in that space. Be laser focused in that space so you could get the right contacts, because we all know it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you don't know the right people, unfortunately, you could be the best painter or the best mechanic or the best whatever, but you're not meeting those people in the right spaces. You're hitting the ceiling and you can't break that roof.
Wow, this is important work. I'm super excited to come and attend the conference this year. And so, Lexi, for our listeners who want to attend the gala on the 5th, the conference on the 6th, join the chamber, or simply just learn more about the work you're doing, how can they connect with you and the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce of the Northeast?
Absolutely. So my number is public. It is 404-343-5042. My email is info@thecaccne.org. Again, info@thecaccne.org. We are welcoming members. We want to grow our membership. Come out. Tell us how you want to get involved. We're needing volunteers, officers, all of that. So just reach out to me. And I'm on Instagram. I think you put my tags already on the flyer. So Lexi's Beautiful Life.
Say it one more time so they can hear it.
Yes. So it's at the CACCNE on Instagram, and Facebook, Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce of the Northeast on Facebook.
And quickly, as we wrap up, Lexi, I'm sure building a conference and a chamber of this magnitude, like you just described, it takes a village. Is there anyone you'd like to acknowledge, or just thanks for helping to make this vision a reality quickly?
Absolutely. Quickly, I definitely want to thank my mom, who's always been my backbone, Mr. Blaine Studdard, who's been a big sponsor with BFW Group and YCPN, Christopher Chaplin, he's been a support in all ways. Our Newcastle County President, Monique Williams-John, she's also a great sponsor and a great friend. And of course, our Delaware and African and Caribbean Affairs Commission, and all of our panelists, moderators, and consulates that are coming. Thank you.
Our unity in action. Lexi, I'm extremely proud to be a part of this conversation, especially as we celebrate June being Caribbean American Heritage Month. And Lexi, what stands out to me is that the Caribbean diaspora has never lacked talent, right? What we've sometimes lacked are enough spaces where people can connect and collaborate and see what's possible. The Young Caribbean Professionals Conference is one of those spaces, and it's where students meet mentors, entrepreneurs, meet partners, and leaders inspire the next generation. And so with that, Lexi, I just want to thank you today for taking the time to join us. Continue your commitment to empowering Caribbean professionals and building opportunities throughout the diaspora. And to our listeners, I encourage you to be a part of the Caribbean Excellence Weekend. Join us for the gala on the 5th. the conference on the 6th, Delaware Historical Society in Wilmington, Delaware. I will be there covering the event. I'll actually be a part of a panel. For tickets, visit the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce of the Northeast. Follow the socials as you just heard. This is Melbourne Motivation Radio Show. I'm your host, Miguel Anthony Melbourne. I want to thank you. As you see, network open doors. Your education can create opportunities, and your purpose can change lives. Stay motivated, stay inspired, and keep building your legacy. And be sure to connect with us at melbournemotivation.com.
And it's a Melbourne motivation around the Caribbean to uplift and assistance. We dey do this from a distance, yeah. No party, we dey do this the hard way. We keep motivating, elevating to a higher level. And it's a Melbourne motivation around the Caribbean.